Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and today I want to talk about the most recent humans list that I've been using on mostly MTGO, Magic the Gathering Online. The main board is pretty stock. The main addition is the Charming Prince. If you haven't seen this guy yet, you need to be paying more attention. This card is phenomenal. Worst case scenario, you have an empty board, things haven't been going well for you. You play the Prince, you scry those two lands that you do not want to the bottom, ensuring yourself a much larger opportunity to be drawing actual creatures next turn. And that way, he's sort of emulating the Bugler. So I call that Mode 1, the Bugler mode. Buglers are great. Mode 2, gain 3 life. So this is basically like playing an Auric Champion, but then guaranteeing that you get 3 life, because what happens with the Auric Champion these days is it dies to Path to Exile before it maybe gains any life, dies to Plague Engineer before it gains any life. It dies in a wide variety of ways, much more than it used to. Charming Prince, to me, is a better version of life gain than Auric Champion. There's Mode 2, Auric Champion mode. Mode 3, exile another target creature you own, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next step. This is the busted mode, right? So this is the mode where if you have a Vial online, you're just leaving it on 2 and hoping that you draw a Charming Prince, because almost every deck these days has some sort of removal, and especially against removal heavy decks, it is insane. It is the mode that is just backbreaking. They go to remove your Mantis Rider, you Charming Prince, exile the Mantis Rider, it comes back, you save the Mantis Rider. I did this yesterday with a freebooter where I played a freebooter, grabbed a Path to Exile. They had another Path to Exile. That was annoying. But so what they had to do was they played the first Path to Exile to kill the freebooter. I bounced it out, so then they got their second one back. Sure, they still have 1, but instead of having 2, they only have 1. And they know that when that freebooter comes back, it's going to re-grab it. So they feel pressure like, I guess I might as well use it on something lame like the Charming Prince, who already did its job. So basically, Charming Prince 8-2 Path to Exiles. Sure, that sounds amazing. Basically, Charming Prince is the card we were hoping it was going to be. It is bananas. To me, it's like a minimum 3. Maybe it's a 4. The only reason it's not a 4 right now is because Humans is a very tight, awesome deck. And I'm kind of having a hard time figuring out what to cut for it. So what I did cut for it was a Thalia. Thalia is amazing, but 3 maybe is enough. Maybe. We'll have to see. I cut one of the images. The theory there was the image is or Charming Prince is kind of a replacement for image in that it is allowing a creature to do many of the things image does, which is like bring in a second copy of Lieutenant to buff the board again. Charming Prince can do that. Or getting another Meddling Mage to get another target. Charming Prince sort of does that in that if you decide you named the wrong thing, you can rename something. Reflector Mage, get another hit on the Reflector Mage. What it doesn't do, of course, is give you a second Mantis Rider, which is like the most devastating thing you can do with the image. But I kind of feel like image has that rough spot where like the fail case is super bad, and I've had plenty of games where against like removal decks where it's like you have an image in hand and there's nothing really to copy. Charming Prince never hits that spot because of the Scry 2, where it becomes the Bugler. So those are the big cuts. The other thing is I'm pretty firmly in the freebooter camp at this point. There's just so many cards worth grabbing with freebooter. I think that's better than Mariner. I haven't seen anyone actually running Charming Prince and Mariner yet, but I think that's promising as well. So the more interesting features then is the sideboard. I guess before we leave, we should say I ended up cutting one of the deputies out of the main board, which makes me sad because Deputy is amazing, and I'm very sad to have cut any deputies at all. But I cut one and moved it to the sideboard. Okay, so let's look at the sideboard. My sideboard is very much something that's in flux that I'm working on. Greatly inspired by the new article on Good Grief Games by Tanner Bromer. I guess I shouldn't say inspired. I should say a lot of what I was doing he is also doing, but I'm going to talk about some small differences that he has. And then Dylan Hand, if you are a Humans fan and you are not subscribed to his Patreon, what are you doing? You should subscribe to that. He has his newest list up. I'm not going to talk about it a lot because it's something you need to subscribe to, but I'll briefly mention it, sort of where I disagree with him or where I agree with him. So I'd say the normal stuff is like 2 deputy detention. Deputy detention is awesome. I could be convinced that 4 is right. I could be convinced 10 is right. There's not room for them all, but deputy is awesome. Plague engineer is great at a whole bunch of matchups. It's really good against Thopters. It's of course good against humans. It's good against, what I love about Plague Engineer is every time I cut it, I run into a random matchup and I'm like, geez, it would have been great against that Merfolk deck, that Elves deck, that Vizier deck. Like, it's just good against such a wide variety of decks that I feel like you want 1 or 2. That's where the question is at. I'm a big fan of Dismember. I've seen a bunch of people taking it out. I still think it's awesome. I think it just kills so many critical cards. It kills Urza. It kills the 1 blocker that plenty of decks can put in your way that you need to remove. It's just super strong. It kills, half of the combo in many of these combo decks that rely on 2 creature combos. It's just really, really strong. Oof is just a given with Urza being as popular as it is. So many other artifacts being good. The real question I think is, do you run 2 oofs, 3 oofs, or 4 oofs? I'm currently on the 2 oof plan, but I'm going to admit this. In real life, I'm probably going to go to 3, but the fact that oof has spiked like $16 or more on MTGO is insane to me, and I just cannot justify spending that much for oofs. Like, he's great, but I feel like Knight of Autumn is kind of a more flexible oof in that if we're going to cut the Auriok Champions, yes, we got the replacement of Charming Prince in the main board, but it's nice to have 2 more outs against burn, 2 more life gains. This is also good against Ensnaring Bridge, some other cards like that don't have activated effects but are still really, really annoying. Say maybe Chalice, though Chalice tends to not be that bad against us. But I do like Knight of Autumn. I think 2 or 1, depending if you want to run 3 or 2 oofs, is totally fine. I think Damping Sphere is really good right now. I mean, Tron is annoying and it gets more annoying every day, and this is really kind of our best shot against Tron. So I'm on 2 spheres. I haven't actually been able to use them lately because I just haven't been running into Tron. I still love Bugler. Like, I would run 3 Buglers if I could find room. There are so many decks where it's good against. It's so good against the blue-white stuff. It's so good against any deck with removal. It's just such a great card. I really have a hard time not having one. It's just also good card filtering to get to stuff like Charming Prince when you need him. I'd say the big one is Mirran Crusader, and this is one that's, something that people have been talking about for a while. It's something I've been thinking about for a while. I saw that Dylan Hand was doing this. That dude knows what he's doing, and I decided to give it a try. Jund is such a bad matchup that if this could actually fix that matchup, that would be kind of amazing. And pretty much none of their dudes are going to be able to block other than like Bloodbraid Elf or something. Like Tarmogoyf's no longer scary. Scavenger's no longer scary. And if you put even 1 counter from Lieutenant, if they can't block it, that's 6 a turn. That is quite a clock that they need to find a Lightning Bolt or they lose. So to me, this is kind of like a nod to how good Jund is. This very likely is not the best choice in like a random meta. But I'm trying it. I want to see how good it will be against Jund. A lot of people like Tyler, Brome. Now I'm forgetting his name. Great. He has Mariner in this slot, and I think Mariner is a good card, and I think very easily could go in there. I just haven't found Mariner to be backbreaking. Mariner feels more annoying. And I feel like Crusader could be backbreaking if I can find enough spots where I can play him. I will admit, so far in the 2 games I've played in this league with it, I haven't had a chance to play it. Another card that I've seen a lot of people putting in their lists lately is Campbell. And Campbell's one of these cards that I feel like he's obviously good. Like, that's not the question. Is Campbell good in a vacuum? Yes, it's good. It's a good card, definitely. But I kind of feel like this is just a speed bump, and it's not a very annoying speed bump. Like, they just lose 2 health, basically, and kill him. So, like, a Jund deck is like, okay, I killed Campbell and lost 2 health. is that 2 health going to win you the game? If it does, then it was great. If not, whatever. Same thing against like Burn. It's like, okay, it's 2 health. It's not that much. Yes, you get to gain 2, which is cool. But the question is like, is that better than other alternatives? Is that better than having Knight of Autumn? Because I feel like Knight of Autumn would be the replacement there, and I think I'd rather have Knight of Autumn that's gaining me 4 health rather than having Campbell as this like hoping I'm drawing it as an out. I guess my point is I feel like it's a small stumbling block against all the decks where I would want to use it rather than like a back-breaking moment where they're like, no, you got Campbell. It always is kind of like, oh, you got Campbell. That's annoying. I'll kill Campbell. I guess I'll kill him first. And you're like, okay, cool, Campbell's dead. So that's kind of my thoughts on Campbell. I think he's a good card. I don't think anyone is wrong for choosing to use it, but I don't consider it to be the best choice. Okay, so that's the deck. If you haven't built a humans deck yet, this is a good choice to try out. And let's move on.